Well, welcome everybody. I'm George. I'm creating this overworld one day at a time by the grace of God, and welcome to the Monday night 6:45 p.m. meeting of creating this overworld. It's our
Probably.
let's start our meeting off with a moment of silence, followed by the long we version of the Trinity prayer. God,
God,
grant us the serenity
remedy to
to
accept
accept the things we cannot change, courage to
courage
change the things we can,
and
and wisdom to know the difference.
no difference.
Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as the pathway to peace, taking heed to this central world as it is, not as we would have it, trusting He will make all things right if we surrender to His will, so that we may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with Him forever in the next. Amen.
Amen.
Creating a civil world is a fellowship, is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they
Can
may
we
solve
solve
their common problem and help the world overcome
all
its
the
power, its addictions to everything, including power, pleasure, and meaning. The only requirement for membership in CASW is the willingness to be nothing. There are no dues or fees for creating Solar World membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. CASW is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes except for the cause of Christ. Our primary purpose is to be sober and bring the world to the sobriety we have found. The focus of this meeting is reading and discussion of the book, Creating a Sober World. We'll read passages from this book for the first half hour, allowing time for members to ask questions and make suggestions and comments. And we'll stop right there and just get to the book reading. Does anybody have any comments or anything they want to say about where we are in this process of reading through the book? Where we just last week we read um, "Servant of Servants," and that'll be the message I'll be delivering next Sunday. Um, and what we'll do is we'll start off by reading the last paragraph or two of the book where we were last week. And who'd like to read? I'll just go ahead and read a little bit myself, and then I'll get some everybody else to read. We're on page. We kind of ended up on page 74. Let's go back a page or two, or paragraph or two. It's also essential for our apostles to know that there has been, this is from page 70, what, 73? 73. It's also essential for our apostles to know that there has been from ancient times an understanding that there's a spirit connected with wine. Thus, the term applied to alcoholic beverages as spirits. The ancient Greek god of the vineyard was known as Dionysius. He was the god of winemaking, orchards and fruit, vegetation, fertility, festivity, insanity, ritual madness, religious ecstasy, and theater. Among the Romans, he was known as Bacchus, for the frenzy he is said to induce among the called Bacchia. Noah would not have been immune to the madness brought on by the god of wine. As righteous as Noah was, there's no reason to think that he would be immune to the insanity of drunkenness. And I do not think it would be presumptuous of us to conclude that in his hungover state, our father Noah did what those under the sway of alcohol almost always do: put the blame on someone else, on someone besides themselves. With these thoughts in mind, we will now take a look at um, how the United States of America was taken down into humiliating defeat by the curse of Bacchus some 90 years ago. We'll then see how it was a little band of servants of servants. There's that theme, servants of servants, brought triumph out of humiliation and turned the touchstone and formed the touchstone for the final unfolding of Christ's worldwide victory over the curse of Bacchus. God has chosen the weak things of the world to put to shame the things which are mighty. 1 Corinthians 1, 27 through 28. This section is, we were doing the section on the foolish. The foolish is the crucified with Christ. The foolish is the servants of Christ. The foolish was a chapter on being dead. The foolish was a chapter on I am the body. I am not the self. Okay, so that was a section on the foolish. Now we're doing the chapter on the weak. Any comments, questions at this point? Okay. Thank you all for being here. How about Rodney? Would you like to read something there, Rodney? Can you see it okay?
Yeah, I sure can. Hey, how everybody doing? Thank you, sir.
All right.
Brother Harold. Alcohol. Hey, I'm good. And yourself, sir?
Great. Thank you for asking.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Alcohol became the rapacious creditor. Bleeds up. Well, look here. And these supposed to be the good. Okay. Us of all self-sufficiency and all will resist in demands. 12 steps and 12 traditions. Defeated by the curse. Who cares to admit complete defeat? Practically no one, of course. Every natural instinct cries out against the idea of personal powerlessness. 12 steps, 12 traditions. Our apostles and equipping other apostles to be the world changing servants of servants. That's that word. They are called to be. Will need to share with them the story of how, in the last century, the United States of America was defeated by the curse of Bacchus. America had been.
And what I want to do just for a second, I just want to address.
I have a question. Excuse me.
You have a question, Eric?
What? No. Excuse me. Yes, my name's Eric. Recovering lunatic. I have a question regarding Noah. Did he have sex with his daughters when he was drunk? Is that the one? Is that the story?
No, Lot is the one who had sex with his.
Eric, listen, Eric, your connection's not very good. Okay.
All right then.
No, that was Lot.
Oh, that was Lot. Okay.
Tony.
Thank you.
Okay. So, kind of interrupted where I was going to go with this. What we're going to try to do is get a meeting together for Harold and Eric at least, and go back over this chapter, this book, paragraph by paragraph, and help you guys really grasp what I'm trying to do is equip you to be apostles, world-changing apostles, okay? So
Yes,
that you
sir.
understand. So, I mean, right now we're reading through the book one time. You kind of get the drift of what the book's about. But then I'm going to try to get everybody together. You hearing this, Eric?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's get back to reading. But I just want to slow down because you see here we're talking about apostles here. Okay. This is trying to equip you guys because you have to need to understand that America was defeated, and right now what we're going through, we have the left, which is made up of human sex traffickers and drug dealers and fentanyl dealers and people who want to destroy the country, trying to finally destroy America. And this destruction of the United States really took a hold on the country back during the Prohibition era. So this is what this chapter is about. The United States of America was actually defeated. We suffered a defeat at the hands of alcohol, and so this chapter explains that to you. Okay, keep going there, Rodney.
Okay. I
America.
start. Where I start in America.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. America has been from its first settling a a culture of habitual heavy drinkers, following practices brought over from their home countries. Almost everyone drank some sort of alcohol beverage. That's just what people did in an era in which the water was not trusted as safe to drink. And biblically, in some sort of alcoholic beverage was also socially accepted, even to a certain extent. Obligatory. Hold on. Hold on. All right. It was considered an insult in some quarters of the society to decline a beer, wine, or whiskey when offered.
Okay, the word is imbibing or drinking, imbibing, which is the same as drinking. Some sort of alcoholic beverage was also socially acceptable, even to a certain extent obligatory. In other words, you were obliged to drink when someone offered you a drink. Keep going.
Yes. Okay. Since colonial times, the country as a whole had been trying to deal with the social problems which this wicked
Widespread.
with this widespread use, which also included the rampant misuse of alcohol presented to our people.
This is the most important thing in my life, and the devil always comes in.
I'm going to mute you, Harold. Okay, go ahead. Keep it going, Rodney.
Periodic Christian revivals brought about change in some of those among us for whom alcohol was a problem and inspired the formation of temperance societies, which many hoped would flourish and solve this vexing problem. These temperance efforts waxed. Okay. Y'all. Okay. Okay. Right there. Waxed and waned, but ultimately made no lasting impact on the problem. After the Civil War, massive Irish and Italian immigration and rapid industrialization fueled a shift in population.
Population density.
Population density from rural areas to cities brought about changing patterns of work and family life. In the big cities, the saloon became the center of social life for many working men. Families suffered. Conservative rural America, sensing that it was about to lose its hold on political power, became concerned over what kind of country we were becoming. Alarm over the problem of alcoholism began to reach crisis proportions. In the last decades of the 19th century, in the midst of what would be known as the Third Great Awakening, and with it, the emergence of what would be called the social gospel, opposition to alcohol mounted and become more pronounced and focused. There arose a groundswell of women wishing to join their husbands in the fight against alcohol. The men refused them admittance to their temperance league, so the women formed their own, the Women's Christian Temperance Union, the WCTU. Under the leadership of Frances Willard, the WCTU mobilized women to train up the younger generation in knowledge of the evils of alcohol, provided homes for female inebrities, and took on the political establishment by demanding the enforcement of existing laws and calling for expanded regulation of alcohol.
So there's female inebriates. You know what an inebriate is? A female alcoholic is an inebriate. Okay. Keep going there,
Yeah.
Rodney.
Okay. Okay, was I political? Where was I at? The women's no, the women's temperance movement joined into the bigger cultural shift that was emerging and aligned itself with the women's suffrage movements. Okay, I can't come up. See my phone kind of. Okay, yeah, here we go. Yeah. All right. Then I got a funny. Okay. Okay. Efforts to pass national law to control also began to, what's that? Coalesce and gain momentum. What's that?
That's it. Come together.
Right.
Coalitions come together.
Coalesce, that's what it is. Thank you. Although the idea of prohibition had been tried in a number of states over the years with varying degrees of success, prohibition would likely not have come to pass on. Okay. Yeah, I think. Okay. See, I keep. Okay. Yeah, put this pointer back because the mind just keep this thing is. Where was I at?
Although the idea of prohibition had been tried in a number of states. Right here.
Okay, yes, sir. Okay. Although the idea of prohibition had been tried in a number of states over the years with varying degrees of success, prohibition would likely not have come to pass on the national level without the passionate leadership of anti-saloon league president Wayne Wheeler.
Well, it's important that you can to read this history because I boiled it down to its essence. Alcohol is causing problems all across America. The politics there was politics involved in it. The rural America didn't like the fact that the cities were taken over, and and the Women's Temperance League came along, and it joined with the women's suffrage and women's vote, get out the vote, let women vote movement. So this is all just the history of how this thing came to pass, and it's something that you do kind of need to know your history, so it doesn't hurt to go over this chapter and learn these basic facts. I boiled it down to the essence. I haven't really left anything that really amounts to anything out of it, and it's important that you understand this history. Everybody understand that? Any comments? Okay. All right. How about you, Harold? You want to read a little bit?
Yeah.
I'll put it up here for you. Okay, here we go. As a young boy, Wayne.
As a young boy, Wayne had been stabbed in the leg with a pitchfork. Wielded,
Yeah.
huh?
Keep going.
Wielded by a drunken farmer, working and carrying a deep-seated resentment against alcohol. Besides the passion of his personal vendetta, Wheeler also developed innovative. Wheeler also developed innovative new political tools that are still employed today in only highly prestigious
partisan
politicians. Now, I don't know what that word partisan politician means, but I'm going to keep going.
Partisan is, fighting, always fighting each other. Partisans. Politics.
He was the one to develop the method of using their cause. In Wayne's case, the prohibition caused as what would later come to be known as a wedge issue. Their evident success in imposing prohibition is difficult to imagine in the absence of the special restrictions placed on alcohol use during the war. The anti-saloon league, along with the Protestant church temperance advocate women,
Churches, temperance advocates, and many
temperance
other sectors of the society. Keep going. You're doing fine.
temperance suffragettes. Did I pronounce that right? Suffragettes?
Suffragettes, women suffragettes. They were the women get out the vote, let the women vote. They were called suffragettes. Okay.
Women suffragettes and many other sectors of the society were finally able to place a majority of legislators committees to the prohibition of U.S. House and Senate passed an amendment to the Constitution to limit access to alcohol. The amendment was not outlawed. The amendment did not outlaw the consumption of alcohol, but it outlawed the manufacturers and the distributions and sale of alcohol beverages. The actual law for the enforcement of the amendment were spelled out in the soon enacted Volstead Act.
Volstead Act.
Volstead Act.
Yeah.
Mm.
This is just history.
Okay.
Okay.
Could you just elaborate on that a little bit, because you got all these fancy words and the things. Basically, what was going on here?
Well, let me just go back over and read it so you can understand what I'm saying. I mean, these are basic words that most people who, so let's say dry advocates. Okay, so here we go back here. Besides the passion of Wayne Wheeler's personal vendetta, in other words, what this guy Wayne Wheeler just came along and he was able to get the politics going. You get what I'm saying? He knew how to work the politics. He knew how to play the political game to shame people and cajole people and bribe people and blackmail legislators into backing his prohibitionist legislation. So you understand that what I'm saying that what's there is you understand
Yeah,
that? Okay. So he
yeah.
was able to do the political blackmailing and stuff and the bribing and all that. So he was the anti-saloon league, and then along the Protestant churches also wanted to have people quit drinking alcohol because a lot of the Protestant churches were teetotalers. Okay, there had been this temperance leagues and so forth, and they were trying to get people to quit drinking. So then you had the churches, the temperance advocates, the women, get out the women's suffragists. You had the voting bloc, and you had many other sectors of the society were finally able to get the legislatures into the House of Representatives and into the Senate and get them committed to the prohibition of alcohol. And they did that in 1917. Legislators in the U.S. House and Senate passed an amendment to the Constitution to limit access to alcohol. They didn't mean you couldn't drink alcohol, but you could not make alcohol, you could not distribute alcohol, you could not sell alcoholic beverages. Okay, and the law that there was an amendment to the Constitution, but then there was a thing called the Volstead Act, which was actually the law that went into effect to outlaw this manufacture, sale, and distribution of alcoholic beverages. So does that help you any?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Mm.
Okay, how about you reading some, Tony?
All righty. Now, it was assumed that the alcohol problem would simply melt away. Advocates for the
Oh, I
prohibition
got two woods there. Okay, hang on. Okay, there you go.
Advocates for the prohibition of alcohol likely did not anticipate the degree of humiliation and resentment that would be evoked within the immigrant Irish and Italian Catholic and German Lutheran communities for whom alcohol use was and had forever been a celebrated part of daily life. Nor did people seem to comprehend that alcoholics would find a way to obtain alcohol even if it killed them, and even many of us in the process. Such is the nature of alcoholism. The alcoholics among us, out of the desperation which is the heart of the disease of alcoholism, naturally broke the law. Their family, friends, and fellow citizens broke it in a spirit of rebellion. Others from codependency, and many others as opportunities immediately became obvious for financial gain. And we cannot forget the roaring 20s. America had won the war, and her soldiers returned to our shores with a much changed view of the world. They had seen Paris. They were no longer rural hicks, but had been liberated from their backcountry moral inhibitions and prohibitions against drinking. They partied, and the speakeasies multiplied. Sigmund Freud's nephew, Edward Bernays, wartime minister of propaganda in Europe under President Wilson, had returned to the US and continued his propaganda, but rebranded and marketed it. It would be called public relations and advertising. He would perfect the art of the creation of dissatisfaction. The manipulation of the masses had begun. The century of the self was born while the economy roared. Second Lieutenant William Griffith.
Does everybody understand that that's what happened in the 1920s after World War One? That Edward Bernays came in and started doing advertising and started creating dissatisfaction. In other words, before advertising came along, people weren't always, having to have the latest equipment, the latest washing machine, the latest this, that, and the other. The economy was not like it is today, where people always had to buy something new. People are pretty content with just living lives very simply. Understand that? Okay. Keep going there, Tony. The century of the self was one. There's a thing called century of self, and what I'll probably do is we'll probably start sending some of these videos to you guys and have you watch them, so you get a little history lessons. Keep going there, Tony. Second Lieutenant William Griffith Wilson.
Fresh from his stint with the Plattsburgh Regiment, and proud of his leadership of the little unit of coastal artillery under his command behind the front lines in France, returned home itching to conquer the world of business. Flunking his law school finals because he was too drunk to finish, he decided to try his luck as a Wall Street stock speculator. For the next few years, fortune threw money and applause my way. I had arrived. My judgment and ideas were followed by many to the tune of paper millions. When the market crashed, Bill crashed, but it would be 4 years before he would follow the stock market to his own crushing bottom.
Okay, so you can see here, that's Bill Wilson. So I'll just put that in there so you kind of understand that Bill Wilson, the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, was hitting bottom at the time all this was going on. He was still drinking, and he hadn't quit. He hadn't started sobering up yet. Okay. Any questions about that? Okay. Okay, keep going there, Tony.
While the stock market was still roaring, the people carried on in typically American independent, don't tell me what to do fashion. Crime syndicates, buoyed by the same attitude, arose to dominate our towns and cities. Judges, courts, and law enforcement assets were corrupted. Our politics was infected with a malady that is still besets us. The vein of criminal political duplicity was grafted into our body politic, which has, progressively over time, undermined.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Progressively over time undermined our social cohesion and learned their lesson at the hands of Wayne Wheeler, sallied forth to blackmail and bribe their own band of legislators until the anti-prohibition side took the lead in the war of the wets against the dries. Finally, on December 5th, 1933, prohibition was brought to an end. Alcohol had won. It is
Okay,
only now.
so everybody understand. Okay, so what I'm making the case is that there's a political movement to ban alcohol. They banned alcohol, and then the alcoholics wanting to keep drinking alcohol because alcoholics are not going to make them quit drinking alcohol, so they kept drinking alcohol, and the criminal element began to rise up. And so you had the bootleggers and the mafia and all these people began to sell alcohol. And also, they were importing drugs and doing sex trafficking. They still do. It's only gotten worse since then. And they corrupted the judges and the legal system. All that got corrupted because there was a lot of money in selling illegal alcohol. Okay, and so our system got corrupted way back in the 1920s and early 30s. Okay. And so finally in 1930, what was it, 1933? They realized that we had to stop prohibition. So finally on December 5th, 1933, prohibition was brought to an end. Alcohol won. Do you realize? So that's the story of how alcohol won the battle and defeated America. United States of America was defeated by alcohol. Any questions? Any comments? That's what we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with an America that's been defeated by the drug addicts and the alcoholics and the alcohol dealers and the smugglers and the sex traffickers and all that. So what do you think about this, Tony? I mean, this is not the first time you've seen this.
No, it's not. I've read this before, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's very interesting. And
Yeah.
and you're right. It goes on today.
Yeah, I mean that's actually what we're dealing with. Behind all the political nonsense is smuggling fentanyl from China through Mexico into the United States. That's a major moneymaker. 100,000 people a year are dying from fentanyl overdoses. Crazy.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, you want to read some of this, Eric? Can you read it? Okay.
Where are you at? What page?
What page?
My phone died. My phone died, so I'm catching up.
I'm in the middle, page 81, in the middle.
All right. Hang on. 81. 81 in the middle. Finally, on December 5th, 1933, prohibition was brought to an end. Alcohol had won. It is only now, as we look back on the almost century-old source of our current crisis, that we are able to absorb the reality of this absolutely humiliating defeat. The sufferings of the Great Depression had masked the seriousness of this tragedy. Then victory in Europe and the Pacific put the era of prohibition in the rearview mirror. This national debacle soon became a mere historical footnote as we entered into world dominance, post-war prosperity, and then Cold War.
Just to stop for a minute. Okay, so everybody understand. Prohibition had won, but this is right at the beginning of the depression. The depression started in what 19, where the stock market crashed in 1929. we went into depression. Franklin Roosevelt was elected president. They ended prohibition, and then we went through depression all through the 30s, and then along comes World War II. We won World War II, and then the war in Korea, and we just forgot about this episode in American history of the of the of prohibition. We just People just don't think about it. Have you ever thought about prohibition? Eric, you think about prohibition? Rodney,
I've
Harold?
thought about it.
Well, you still kind of have it in some places today where they're like dry counties.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
true.
but for the most part, prohibition is not something anybody even thinks about anymore. And to think about how prohibition was started and then was ended, and then all the criminality that went on with it. Nobody nobody even thinks about prohibition and all the stuff that went on in prohibition. They forgot about it.
I went to Arkansas. I went to Arkansas with our old bass player Roger Crisco, and he bought a bottle of mouthwash and drank it.
My goodness.
Yep.
My goodness. Okay. So keep reading here, Eric. Get back here.
Okay. A stalemate in Korea, a conflict which has never been peacefully concluded, brought us into an era where left and right have been engaged in a constant battle. We got involved in a conflict in Vietnam and lost that war. In our streets and university campuses, a drug and sex crazed left came into its own. The victors in that strife went on to take over the colleges, the news media, Hollywood, and now corporate America. Our self-centered media-driven and manipulated culture was seduced into a fevered pursuit of power, pleasure, and meaning. Drug and sex addictions of every type have now come to do more than merely abound. We have now become a nation of addicts.
Okay.
The
Does
same.
anybody disagree with that? We're now a nation of addicts.
I agree.
People are addicted to power, pleasure, and meaning. When you look at the colleges, they're all, what does it all mean? What does it all mean? You look on the news, all this meaning stuff. They're all into what does it mean? Because they don't know Jesus, so they're addicted to power, pleasure, and meaning. Okay. Any comments? Okay.
No, I think that's about right.
Okay. Keep reading.
Okay, so the same power brokers who had run the speakeasies, the bootlegging, and the brothels of the Roaring Twenties now run the drug, sex, and human trafficking cartels and pay those in power to look the other way.
And that's exactly what they did with the Biden administration. They were bringing in all these people from Mexico, and Joe Biden was just looking the other way while drugs came in and all that, and all these juveniles were brought in and sex trafficked into their country, and people just kept looking the other way. Keep going there, Eric. Thank you.
Okay. So our intelligentsia and media wanting to be on the side of what used to be called hip are now woke and tell us what we should now believe. Believe our lying eyes. Trust us. We will tell you what it all means. Women are men and the men are women. 2 plus 2 really does equal 5. Shut up and drink your Kool-Aid. In the presidential election of 2020,
So you get that, don't you, Eric? Just
of course,
and so
of course,
finally, when Trump got elected, and finally we're trying to put that leftist nonsense to rest, and they're fighting all they can do to keep lying to us the way they've been lying to us and to the American people. And so we're really in a battle of what is the truth.
of
Any
course.
comments? Okay, keep going.
In the presidential election of 2020, the criminal element formed the axis of power, which, in collusion with the progressive, diversity addicted left, globalist power mongers, and postmodern deconstructionists, spinmeisters in academia, and the corporate and digital media conspired to finally engineer the concluding episode of our decades long process of humiliating defeat. The American Republic, as we have known it, looks as if it has come undone. These criminally addicted elements of our society appear to have finally and conclusively destroyed it. It's not personal. It's just what addicts always do, feverishly striving to finally establish Plato's dream communist utopian tyranny. The left has conformed itself to the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. If they have indeed really succeeded, it will not turn out well, as history has demonstrated over and over again. 100,000 Americans died of a drug overdose from April 2020 to April 2021. Washington Post, November 17th, 2021. Other victims of the curse.
Okay, so you got an older version of the book. So here go. Post-election 2024. I'll just put this in here. A few weeks ago. Is there hope? Is there yet hope? I wrote the last passage shortly after the 2020 presidential election. I was assuming that our political trajectory would continue to take us deeper and deeper into the pit. I did not anticipate Donald Trump being able to recapture the White House with such a wide shift in public rejection of the policies of the left. I am hopeful that our defeat at the hands of the power elite may be reversed. Time will tell. Okay, so Trump getting elected has given us some hope that maybe the left is not going to destroy us after all. You follow me? But it's really going to depend on people like you, just ordinary American citizens getting this understanding that I'm trying to put out here, here in this book, and then in the Our Path to Practical Holiness. We have to raise up a grassroots movement that knows how to stand up for the truth. Okay, that's you guys. Okay, keep going.
Okay, other victims of the curse, such as the story of how the curse of Bacchus brought the United States of America down into humiliating defeat. You might be surprised to know that only a few dozen years earlier, the same curse had also triggered the overthrow of Tsarist Russia. The Tsar's ban on the sale of alcohol triggered the coup that would lead to the takeover of Russia by the communists. I did not know that. A similar curse had also come upon China in the 19th century, but not at the hands of alcohol. China would suffer what the Chinese people themselves would refer to as the century of humiliation at the hands of the global opium merchants. Great Britain and her trading partners. These two accounts are given a brief but more detailed treatment in Appendix A. From the ashes of defeat, America was defeated by alcohol, but the some sort of miracle out from under of the ashes of this defeat came a group of drunks who were able to show the world that there was a way to bring forth a culture that could overcome the curse of Bacchus. Our journey of equipping our apostles to create a sober world now takes us on the account of how a first century Christian fellowship was able to raise up a body of servants who would come together, of servants who would come together as one and defeat the curse. We will now see how it was that very ordinary men and women were able to achieve in just a few years. What the temperance leagues, politicians, Protestant, Christian, denominations and constitutional amendment had attempted but were unable to accomplish.
Okay, so there was no cure for alcoholism. They tried to pass a law to solve the alcohol problem, and the criminals and alcoholics defeated the law, and so a year after the Prohibition Amendment ended, along comes the Oxford Group, and along comes a cure for alcohol. Okay?
Well, I like how you were in the page there on 83.
So again?
Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path.
Hang on. Right. So that's getting ready for the next chapter. So we're going to end for tonight. But this is breaking the curse, and this is how the curse is broken. And so we're living. So while we're living, I delivered the message on Sunday night. In other words, the key to this is going to be these 12 steps. The idea that we're servants of servants. In other words, I'm a servant of servants. I'm here to serve you guys. I'm part of this fellowship of servants of servants. We saw that last week, right? With Jesus is the servant of servants. My job is to be a servant of servants, and then to train you to be a servant of servants. Because the master of all will be the servant of all. If you're going to change the world, you're not going to change it from the top down. You're going to change it from the bottom up. Everybody understand that? God's going to use you to be world changer. He's not going to use. I know Donald Trump's trying to change the world from the top down. What he's doing a pretty good job, but ultimately you do have to change it from the bottom up. It has to be changed from the bottom up. Okay.
Well, what the left is trying to do is create a top down, bottom up conflagration. But that's a whole other ball game.
Well, I don't want to try to get into that right now because they're very much trying that they're just manipulating. They're using the media to try to manipulate and control everybody. What people thought, and it's all a bunch of lies.
Yeah,
that's all top down. That's all top down.
Top down, bottom up, but they're trying to create a bottom up where we engage in revolution.
Well, yeah, they are, but but we're not trying to create we're not trying to do see.
That's why they're creating a nation of addicts.
Say again?
That's why they're creating a nation of addicts, so they have everybody on their knees.
There you go. There you go. They've got you all under control because they got you drugged up. They got you. addicted to pornography and addicted to sex with little
Right.
boys and you name it, and confused about your sexual identity and all that stuff designed to create chaos.
Absolutely.
So what we're doing is we're being sober, we're being God guided, God controlled, we're being foolish and the weak and the nothing. Any comments about you, Harold? Let's give me a couple of minutes for comments.
Okay. Well, I'm thankful the things that I've heard, and
Yes, sir. I
I'm
am too.
I was going to say I'm one of the weak because I've been caught up in this addiction. The addiction I can understand about addictions, especially the addiction of alcohol and the addiction to many other things. And I see that it begun before I was ever born. That was like 60 years ago that you were talking about the prohibition and the different things. It still goes on to this day. So I'm very grateful to be a part of what God is doing in the earth, and I'm going to be committed to doing my part of being
Yes.
a servant of servants.
You know, and what I encourage you to say, I'm creating a civil world. I'm creating a civil world one day at a time by the grace
Mm.
of God and the fellowship of the saints in recovery. Okay?
Yes, sir.
You'll find that a very powerful thing to say because you'll definitely get it. You'll definitely get it. Okay? I am creating a civil world one day at a time by the grace of God and the fellowship of the saints in recovery. Anybody else want to share? Rodney, you want to share? Take 2 minutes.
Yes, it's when it okay, it says it all when it say, like creating a soul world, that covers everything. We just got so many ways we look at it and believe it or affect us. But overall, that's just how it just going back to just go back to the point where we say alcohol had won. We had gave in, like, so it's yeah, it's I'm like brother Harold when he say like for what God is doing in the earth now. I mean, it's he just I mean that's right there just made me, he summed it just because the way he said was going on before and everybody can relate. And anyway, so yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. It's just I don't know, here I would say in the last month, it's just been learning things. It's been like I don't know, like so amazing, like where I've been or like so um I just it's like I'm at the point now where out of all the motivation I've ever had in my life, I've never motivated to take time out to deal with me. I mean, you learn everything in life about, but with me anyway, I just so I don't know why I'm saying all this, but it's it's just it's a how to say it's a fine day to be alive, but it just for me, I guess the reason it got me all I was sharing it with my uncle. I guess uh because this is really I don't know a better way to say it. I ain't never uh I don't know. I was always the type of cat where it was like, I don't know. I really did have a love affair with stupidity. We can say it it's a different ways, but anyway, um, I just like what's happening, how I'm learning and the service and being like you say the uh servant of service, and how brother had just and how we learning and the way it. Oh, we like saying, oh, anyway. So, okay, thank you for letting me share.
Ron, you just keep coming back. You're doing great. I mean, you're all doing great. I mean, this is not a conversation you pick up real quick, but the more you come back, the more you read the material, the more you talk to each other about it, you're gonna you're gonna train each other, and you're gonna get this, and it's gonna be great. You guys are gonna do wonderful. Anybody else want to
Yeah,
comment? Take a 2 minute share. How about you, Eric? You want to say something? 2 minutes?
Um, I don't know. I just want to share the fact that my eyes have really been opened to the fact that that I personally have uh, this this thing with free will that um, that if I'm giving my will to God, have I and to Christ, am I really still at the hands of my own desires? And why my own desires? Why am I constantly battling with those desires? It's a question that I'm asking myself constantly. So
Well, that's what
that's where
we're,
I'm at.
that's what we're going to be dealing with, Eric. Make sure that we get rid of those things that drive you. So that's what the Wednesday night group's all about, is get all that stuff to the cross and nail it to the cross so it doesn't run your life. Okay.
Yep.
That's what we're going to be doing. Tony, do you want to say anything?
Well, I think to what Eric said, that is what we have to do, is to surrender our will, but at the same time have a transformation of our minds so that we start thinking differently. So we're sober minded, not just not just sober in the sense of free from alcohol or some other addiction, but that we're that our minds are thinking soberly, but that we're clear.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Tony. And the thing we're doing here is not so much trying to get people to think differently, but the idea is that God actually speaks to us when we get the self out of the way. We begin to hear God guiding us and telling us what to do. I'm a bond servant of Jesus. I'm a love slave. That Paul says it, First Romans, in the first chapter of Titus. Paul, a bond servant of Jesus, or a love slave of Jesus. Titus. Paul, a bond servant or love slave of Jesus. So I'm a love slave of Jesus. Not a very good love slave of Jesus, but I am have given my will and my life to God. So tell me what to do. Step 11 of the Addiction Recovery Program. Tell me what to do and give me the power to do it. So we want to live God guided lives. We can't live God guided lives if self is still trying to run us. We can't let self run our lives. We've got to surrender to God and let God run our lives. Okay? But you guys are doing great.
Very good.
Yeah. Thank you, Tony. Okay. So, let's wrap it up. We'll do our little PowerPoint presentation and close this thing out. Okay, here we go. Um, we'll close with what is it? What is this? Let's close our meeting with a prayer of St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace, that where there is love, hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, let me sow pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, let me sow joy. Oh, divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is by giving that we receive, is by pardoning that we are pardoned, and is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, guys, bless you.
God bless you guys.
See you tomorrow morning. To those who want to come tomorrow morning on the same Zoom link, we'll be reading from Jesse Finn Lewis's Centrality of the Cross book. And then I'll see you all on Wednesday night, those of you who can make it, okay?
What time is tomorrow morning?
Tomorrow morning is at 7 o'clock on this link.
All right.
See you then. All right,
Bye.
buddy. Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
God bless you all.
Bless you.